Hello, everyone, and welcome to tonight's podcast live stream, where we are answering your game design and game development questions inside of Unreal Engine. What's going on here? Hang on, everything's freaking out. 1 second. Let's get this. There we go. Hey, good to see you, Lord Bunch. Hi, and thumbs. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Yes, if you don't know what this is a live stream where you can ask anything you like to get some support with your game dev projects inside of Unreal Engine. All you have to do is put your questions into chat and I'll try and grab as many as I can within the time we have here tonight. So, I see people have been filling in the chat. I've been keeping an eye on it while I've been setting things up, so that's all good. I've got a few interesting ones to go about. Blah blah blah. Is there a tutorial of how to use Unreal Insight or GPU Profiler? I can't do it right now because I don't have the engine build for this version of Unreal. But I will do something about that because that's quite interesting and it's very confusing when you look at it. But if you don't know what it is, everyone, it basically is a breakdown of your game's operations, and you can see every single tick and what's happening in every single tick, so you can identify what are the hiccups in your game. Yeah, we'll do a various number of videos on how to do that at some point, I imagine. Next question I see. Can you hear me? Yeah, you can hear me. Cool. It's nuts. Like so many things on this. I need to clean up my OBS. Anywho, Lord Brunch is asking because he's about to die. How can I make a rear view mirror as a UI element? Interesting. Yep, pretty simple. All you got to do is use scene capturing. So you have to go. I'm in first person here, so this is maybe a bit weird, but we'll do it in first person. Same would work for a car. But essentially, what you got to do is at the back of the character, you need to put in a scene capture component and turn it around. Like that. And obviously we want to put it like there. Okay, with a scene capture, what it's going to do is going to take what it captures on the camera and puts it onto a texture. And you set the texture over here on the right hand side with the texture details panel. The details panel is where you find a texture target. We're going to create a render target. Sure. And there we go. Now, when you first make this, its default sizing is very small. It's 256 by 256. Obviously, if you're doing a rear view mirror, you put it up that a little bit. So we'll do 1024 by 1024. Like that. And we're going to make that a material. And because you want it to be a UI element, all you got to do is change this to be a UI material. Plug that in. And you're good to go. So, oh, that's new. Oh, interesting. They've added this little thing. You used to be able to do it differently, but never mind. They've made it simple. Anyway, once you've got that, you then add it to your user interface. So let's go to the widget blueprint. And we'll do rear view mirror. Add this to our object here. I'm going to add an overlay. And in part of that overlay, we're going to have an image. And we're going to put it at the top of the screen here. Let's actually wrap that with size box. Size box. Width and height. We'll do 1200 by 300. Yeah, that'll do. One rear view mirror. And if you want to get fancy with it, you can change the brush to be rounded box if you like, make it even more like a rear view mirror. Anywho, you put that on the screen and we make this brush have the image of our texture target that we have there. Oh yeah, if you want rounded box to work, you need to have the opacity turned on to at least translucent. Yep, there you go. I'll just put this on a character, be fine. Just to demonstrate. I normally wouldn't put it on the character, the widget, but we're cutting corners because we're moving fast. and then add to viewport. And there we go. We've got a rear view camera on the back of our character, watching where we're going from behind. And that's essentially it. Shez V, notice that particle system is deprecated. Is that a big deal since Niagara is so useful now? It is handy. The thing to look out for, though, is a lot of older assets on the asset store are made with the particle system. They're called Cascade, the original particle system. But there's a handy little tool that a lot of people don't know about, and it kind of works. So if you go to plugins and type in Cascade, you'll see there's a Cascade to Niagara converter, and it will try its best to convert it over to our Niagara system. So you can convert them in like an earlier version and pick them up. So you can do that. But not a massive deal, as you can do pretty much everything in Niagara. The only thing you can't immediately do off the bat in Niagara, as far as I'm aware, is particle events. But yeah, that's something to work out for. Next question. Hello Ryan, have you ever faced streaming mesh corruption in UE5? Any ideas how to deal with it? I can't say I have ever faced that, unfortunately, so I can't really help there. What do you mean by corruption? Like it's like visually corrupted? Is there any way to debug a sphere trace in control rig? Don't know. Hang on, take a look. Just do this one. I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. No, sorry. As far as I can see, no. Iron thumbs. Hold on. Is there do you know where they've hidden the bloody simulate option in physics assets in 5.6 plus? I can't say I've looked. Let me get the physics asset here. So we're in 5.7 at the moment. So it used to be simulate selected. I'm in 5.7, so maybe it's a 5.6 issue. Oh, it's missing in 5.6. Oh, alright, okay. Well, there you go. They must have put it back in. So there you go. Yeah. If not, it might be that the menu option is missing. So try the shortcut Alt-Shift-I. See if that works for you. Alt-Shift-I. Try, because it may be that the menu, the UI button is missing, but the shortcut command does work still. Try that. Okay. Next up, we got Sard. Is asking for the enemy movement working with IABB. Hang on, is pawn sensor currently moving? But oh right, okay. So, hang on. For enemy movement working with the artificial intelligence blackboard behavior tree, not need pawn sensing. Correctly, it's moving but without walking. Oh, Yeah, so the issue you've got there, I imagine this is your issue, is that you've got it all working, it's moving, but it's not doing walking animation. So the reason why that's the case is because when Epic made the animation blueprint, it has a bug in it you need to fix. So this won't work for AI characters. Just simply go to the AI, animation blueprint for the character, find this part where it says ground speed, current acceleration. So the problem is current acceleration. This only works for player input. It doesn't work for regular movement. So what you need to do is just basically just chuck that straight across and it should move. It'll still work the same. It'll still look fine. But now AI will actually walk around and move. Okay. Witness you. Yeah. Bye. Bye, Lord Punch. Hey, good to see it works, Iron Thumbs. Hey, Ryan, do you have any tips on designing a small city level like Spider-Man or Yakuza? I've done most of my mechanics, but I'm struggling to create a map. Is there such a thing as a small city? My best advice, my best advice is to look at real city planning and look at how cities actually get built. If you want it to be realistic in that sense of like believable, you have to think about how we do things like zoning in cities. I'm not an engineer, but how cities have zoning, and think about how people use the cities and things like that. Just do tons of research into actual cities. So the guys that make GTA, for example, don't just make it on a whim. They go to cities all over the world and take millions of reference footage and photos, because you won't know unless you go there. And that's how they make their cities feel like New York, LA, Miami. That's how they do that. So do your research. Obviously, I'm not telling you to go fly somewhere. Google Maps is great for this, so have a look at Google Maps. Yeah, really helps. Would you? But in all seriousness, if you're building a massive city, try to think of ways to make your life easier, because it's a lot of work. So you're using a lot of like PCG and dynamic materials and things like that to make your life a little bit easier. Yeah, take a look at the city sample project. There's quite a few things in there that can point you to the right direction. I would personally advise not making a city game, but hey, there you go. Oh yeah, there you go. People are saying it too. Would I recommend learning Mover instead of building with the normal character movement component if I'm just starting a new project? Ask yourself the question: do you need the Mover plugin system? Because if you don't need it, I would hold off on it for a little bit longer from to cook it a bit more. A lot of people want to rush into using all these new fancy things. Don't rush into them because they change violently. So wait if you can wait. Unless you're doing something that desperately requires it. Yeah, you're fine using the standard character movement component. It's not going to go anywhere at all for a long time. So just use it. Kishan. Also, is there a way to see? Oh yeah, a way to see UI widgets in the sequencer. This would dialogue so much easier to do if you could see it in the sequencer. If I could see it and in editor. Yeah. So when you do a sequencer, by default, I think it is. No, don't make sure that's the case. Oh no, not by default. It says hide HUD. It shouldn't hide the HUD when you're doing this. It shouldn't do. It should still play with all the UI elements still attached to it. if you want a widget to appear in here, then you're making use of events and triggers, things like that. So, for example, you can do an event track trigger, and let's say we go along here. You add a trigger point. Right-click on the point, go to Properties, Endpoint, and create new endpoint. This is the event that happens at that point. Okay, and then you can do create widget, blah 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 blah. You can totally do that. That's totally fine. Yeah. That's it really. But it's just to pop up on the screen. But yeah, use the event track. Yeah, close that now. Weston's World Studio. Any tips for sharing a project with a new team member with version control? Yeah, well, if you're not already using version control, one I recommend trying out is Diversion. It's really indie friendly, very simple to set up, very simple to use, and it has a built-in plugin for Unreal. Yeah, check out Diversion. It's pretty solid. That would be my recommendation there. Lethal 4995. How to make your game textures. By the way, is my audio capping out? Let me move that down a bit. Let me know if the audio is weird. Just about to start sharing with a new team member. Yeah, you just add them to your Diversion. You add them to your team, and then they download it. Yeah, how to make your game texture look like The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners. Yeah, this is I see this come up quite a few times. So if you don't know what this is referring to, and you get people go, I want to make the Borderlands look and things like that. That would help if I put game. It sort of looks like this, right? The reason why it looks like this is because it's using hand-painted textures. Okay? So, get painting. It's essentially the answer to it. You're using handcrafted textures. You're not using real textures on it, like photos or anything like that. You're painting it directly in. Let me see if I can get a better screenshot. Yeah, these are just hand-painted textures a lot of the time. Okay, so and there's you want to talk to an artist about it, how to actually do it. You know, that's generally the process you see there. Yeah, you just make the textures by hand. If you wanted to let's say you've got a texture, like a model that you want to use in here, for example. I don't know what we got in here. Not much. Let me just add something to it. Hang on. I'll show you a technique you can do to sort of shortcut it a little bit. Let me go to one that I've already got downloaded. 1 second. Just need some props. That isn't going to take up a ton of space. God, I don't want to... bear with me. So, sorry, I'll share it on this screen. So, I'm currently trying to find a realistic-looking texture from the marketplace that I've got actually really downloaded. That isn't crazy, massively huge in here. Yeah, just search for it. I know which one I'm going to do. I need to update it. Ugh. Okay. Hopefully it's not a big update. No, cool. All right. So I'll add this to the project. QT07. There you go. All right. So I'm going to show you a little trick you can do. Yeah, okay, Iron Thumb just caught on what I'm about to do. So you could take the texture of any item you see in your thing. So let's go to props, for example. And we got this pipe curve. There we go. Okay. And what I can do is you can edit your material in textures easily. You just go into your materials, find your textures. If they got them in here, that'd be handy. Yeah, there you go. So I'll take this one. I'm going to export it. So asset actions, export. Sure. We'll put it there. And then we open up Photoshop or your photo editing software of choice. Still 1%. Yeah. So let me hang on. Getting myself in a model. I'm just going to go to the Explorer. Why can't I open that in Explorer? What? There you go. Ah, because I didn't save it. Never mind. Anyway, so yeah, there's my texture I want to use, right? So I'm going to go into Photoshop. If I can. That ain't right. Oh, wait, it's there. Sorry, wrong one. There we go. Yeah, so I go into here and I can edit it however I want. So you can use filters in here to make it a bit more interesting if you want. You can lower the resolution of it, which I recommend doing if you're going for maybe, or maybe not. I don't know. But we'll go into what's a good one to do. I'll tell you what we'll do a filter gallery. And we won't do that one. Brush strokes. So some of these will look rubbish. And this is a real cheap shit. Like, I wouldn't actually do this if I was doing it properly. I'd like make it myself if I had to. But you know, you can do this as a thing. Well, maybe a cutout. Yeah, the cutout's not too bad. There you go. We'll do cutout. Okay, so there's cutout, and then I export that out back as a PNG. Export. I've got to say, I'll just copy the path. Yeah. There you go. Yes. Like that. And then go back to the engine. Go back to the material we were doing. Okay. And then go away. Oh, for God's sake, go away. And then on here, you go to re-import a new file. Choose your file. Okay. And this you'll need to probably want to do this with like your other settings as well. Not mess about with like the specular and emissive things, but you can see what I mean. Like you can get some half decent effects out of it, and you can probably overlay it with other materials and other decals and effects to sort of simulate kind of what you're doing. So there are ways to work around it if you want to do a cheap shot around it. But yeah, you essentially it. So you can probably go into metal mask. No, keep that on. Actually, don't know. I don't know if that's making it better or not. But yeah, mess about with the various settings that we've got going on. Contrast, no. Actually, might be. Let's mess about with that a little bit there. Specular, I want to bring that down a bit so it's less shiny. Yeah. You're halfway there, you know. So you can skip a few steps, but you can also just paint over it if you want. Yeah. Next question. Okay, no problem, Ryan. I did wonder where you went. It's fine. I wasn't going anywhere. I was sitting here. I was just working on Mimic while I was waiting for you. That's all. Yeah, running diffuse for emissive. That's because you're trying to get rid of the lit styling, maybe. But just like you may still want lit on it. But a combination of this coupled with some post processing, you could do some effects. But let's say it's hand painted. Next question. Oh, I'm caught up. Have I caught up? Any questions I've missed? Let's scroll up and have a look. Darbog, is there a way to test in editor how the server client latency would be whilst using Steam sockets? I'm getting different behaviors when I test with multiple users in the editor. Yes, you can. So it is if you when you're playing, yeah, fine. When you're playing the game, you go to, is it latency? No. See, I can't remember what they call it now. Net dot. Can't remember the code. Latency. No. It might not be in the game. It might be out of the game. Is it net profile? No, net latency. Net. There you go. Net emulation packet lag. PKET lag. And you put in how much lag you want to put in. You can also do min, max, and variance if you like to. So you can test like how crazy it goes. So you just put in how many millisecond lags you can have. Yeah. So put in 1,000. When you play it, you can know. Well, you're not going to see it here, but you're at 1,000 latency lag. You can also do something similar in the project settings. I think it's in project settings. It might be in the editor settings. I think it's in editor settings. Yeah, you can emulate network traffic. So, hello, why can't I turn that on? Don't know why I can't turn it on, but you can do it by the console command. That's normally how I do it. Lord Bunch, how can I make a landscape to avoid having everything on an island? Players would not be able to navigate to it. Smoke and mirrors, my friend. Smoke and mirrors. So, you make a landscape. I'll just make it a bit lower than the floor so I don't get any weird clipping. So obviously you want to have something stopping the player from walking off into the sunset. So you have to have something, be it an invisible wall or whatever. But if you want to make it look like something's out there, just put it out there. So this is how generally games will have it done. So you have your play space over here. And then if you want to use a billboard, it's sort of like flat plane, you can do. If you want to use a landscape, you can do that too. You can add another landscape in if you like. So go to new, and we're just going to adjust the location of this. And bring it down like that. Okay, and then you can sculpt this to be whatever you like it to be. I don't know if it's gonna be high enough yet, but yeah, you sculpt that to whatever you want to be. But it's just you want to just has to be far away enough where obviously you don't see it, but obviously you need something to stop the player from just walking over there. So some sort of invisible wall that's close enough, far enough, whatever. Yeah, you need to have that, and you kind of just use brushes to blend the two together. It's just tricks. It's nothing really serious about it. I mean, if you really wanted to, you can also select the whole landscape like this and just tilt it up like that and do some weird stuff with it if you want. You know, whatever you like. But yeah, you have to hide the scene. It's just like a real life Horizon. You just got to hide it with mountains, trees, objects, buildings, whatever your heart desires. But obviously, yeah, just think of how you're going to stop the player from walking over there. That's all. You'd be surprised how much you can get away with just having things look scaled slightly differently, but be closer to the camera. If you wanted to make like why can't I delete this thing? Oh, God's sake. So there you go. So let's say I'm playing sort of a map here. You can use make heavy use of parallax and object scaling to make things appear like they are closer and further away than they actually are. You know, you can do things like that. So if I go in that polar, for example, I think there's some. Yeah, so they've got like these vista meshes here, like mountains. You see, they're not that big. You can scale them, obviously, but you can just do a little bit and get far away enough, you know. And then you layer that with other assets, but you're making use of parallax to make deal with it. So this one will make slightly smaller. Ooh. Than this one. Yeah, you just, I don't know. Just smoke and mirrors. Definitely nothing else. Is it better to have everything on one level and then just use data layers, or should I use sub-levels? It depends entirely on your game. That's all, really. Yeah, that's all. Console 886. If I have a blueprint, for example, a shop blueprint where I have a static mesh and I want to add employment sign that this place is hiring, it should be inside this blueprint or in world. I would probably put it in the blueprint myself. It's just a little easier to reference and reach out to. You know, a little bit more straightforward. So yeah, Shez, would it be cheaper memory-wise to use a large cylinder with an image on it for a landscape? You totally could. You could. Yeah, that's what sky spheres are. Skyboxes and sky spheres. That's what they are. I'll always point to it as a good example. NoClip.website is a great place to see how games handle this stuff. They're mostly older games because they're running in browser, but you can get a feel for it. If it goes even like for Need for Speed Most Wanted here, like you can kind of see how the city dealing with that distance view things. You can see what they're doing. So let's just zoom out a bit. So they're just doing these sort of billboard cutouts. So just out there, you know. But these are just 2D images, just photos on a piece. Yeah. A good thing to note about this game, in other racing games similar to it, like open world racing games, is when you look at the layout of the roads, you can clearly see the tracks. Like you can see how it works with a track. But yeah, it's just so it's all smoke and mirrors. It's just bits hanging out there. Obviously, this is loading in and loading out, streaming in, streaming out parts of the city. But yeah, everything's a circuit in this game. You can see if you look at the roads. If you go to Dark Souls, yeah, you can see stuff in the distance. Yeah, I picked the wrong map. Really? Let's pick a better map. Let's do this one, I think. Will be fine. Yeah, this one's fine. So yeah, like for example, they got all this stuff out here. Yeah, you can see. That is technically a model, but if you go out here, you can see it's just a scaled down version of the model. And they use fogging planes. You see this planes like a fog? It gives the impression of further distance than it actually is. Okay, so you can actually simulate this effect with the exponential height fog as well to really make use of that sort of system. But if not, you can use this sort of cheap method of planing. It's called NoClip.website. It's a great tool. I use it all the time to showcase level design tips and tricks, and how we do things like this. Like you fake God rays, for example. These are just planes, you know. Fake it if you can. It's always better. But the worlds, you see here, the clouds and all the rest of it even further, is just these layers and layers of these sort of cylindrical or sphere-like meshes. And I can go right outside of it and you can see just how it works. Yeah. It's huge, but it has to be huge to trick the player. But yeah, make use of these sort of things. So if I go back to Unreal to showcase what I mean by the exponential height fog. So I want to make these mountains look further away than they actually are. If I go to the fog, exponential height fog is the illusion of atmosphere. Atmosphere is not clear. It has density to it. So things farther away will look more fogged out than things closer to you. It's just how you're naturally used to seeing it. So we can increase the fog density of this or change the distance of this fog as well. So if I change the start distance here and change the density, which top tip, you can actually just type in a value. So I'm going to do 0.1. Let's change that to 0.2, 0.3. Notice how that fogging makes that look so much farther away than it actually is. Yeah. It's a really cool trick. 0.4, 0.5. Yeah. It's not that far at all. It's literally just like there. But obviously, it's just one of the many tips and tricks you can do. Do play around with different ideas and what you can do with it. But yeah. Would it be hard to recreate RPG Maker's game systems in UE5? I haven't used RPG Maker in 20 plus years, so I cannot tell you anything about that, that thing. But I mean, I doubt it'd be that too hard to recreate. Can you make the window transparent like an overlay of like Bongo Cat? I think I know what you mean. Don't think so. Not without editing like engine code to handle it. I don't think there's a way of doing that. Yeah. When I make an interface, for example, BPI player, if I return the whole player character master blueprint in the interface, is that still better than casting to directly or worse? No damn difference. Casting is only really expensive if you're casting the things that might not necessarily be loaded in memory. So when you cast, you're loading stuff into memory that may not be needed in memory. So if it's there, already there, it's basically not going to cost you anything. So you might as well just cast it. That's why casting to the game mode isn't a big deal, or the player controller is not a big deal, because they're not going anywhere. They're stuck. So it's not a big difference, not a big deal. Yeah, it's a common misconception about casting. People always, I don't know how this has gotten around that people should like avoid casting like the plague. Yes, it's expensive only if you are casting to things that don't exist in memory. But yeah. But yeah, no problem to do what you're doing there. How's Mimic going? Going well. The current thing I've been working on is adding or evolving the minigame aspect of it. So I've been working on some sort of wiring minigame. Because there's a couple of problems we need to solve. One is, and it's all design problems, not technical problems. So the design problem is we need to slow the players down, so they're not rushing around, and we want to build tension, so we've got to slow them down somehow. So I've done a few things to do that, mostly psychological things, but yeah. The other thing is we want the players to have more agency in the voting system. So the voting system, although great and works, the problem with it is that not many players are interacting with it. So looking at different ways of managing that and making it a bit more a bit more natural, a lot less intrusive. So we're looking at ways of doing that. And currently my winning idea for that at the moment, which I haven't implemented yet, is a ping system. So rather than voting, you ping people and it'll you have a suspicion bar or a suspicion meter. Whether we show it to the player or not, I don't know. But you'll build a suspicion meter. And the higher that goes, the more likely you're going to be targeted by the android. And you can ping people like with a ping system. And like basically point fingers at them and say, that person, that person, that person. And then the other problem I've been trying to solve with it is, again, design issue, is we want players to have more options to cause danger for other players. So there's no direct combat in the game. So a big thing to solve was, how do we make players target people? Like, let's say they know someone's a bad person. They want to stop them. What tools are at their disposal to help them do that? Well, we've got the voting or ping system to get the android to kill them. But that's too delayed. It's not active enough. So I was trying to think of how you can do combat without doing combat. And I'm currently floating around with the idea in my head of adding like a shove mechanic. Also, it would be pretty funny for like friends to get together and just like push each other over. So yeah, we'll be. I think a shove mechanic might be quite interesting. Like you can shove people and it will like knock them back, and it might be quite interesting if you're running away from someone and you push them and to push them out the way or push them into the danger. You know, things like that. So currently solving those problems, which might be interesting to test out soon. Trader News Daily. I want to make a looter shooter with four players but can you briefly explain how it works in multiplayer? Like, is the FPS with arms and legs only better, and draw full body for other players, or full mannequin? No big difference really. I personally would. I mean, it's no big difference. There's loads of different options you can do. You can do the two that you mentioned. There's also another one that they do inside of this one. So if you're looking at the first person one in here, if I go F8, you kind of see like this other character back here, how they're pushing their neck sort of weirdly out the way. Yeah. So if I like do stuff like this, yeah, you can kind of see a weird looking one behind them with a long neck. So they're doing stuff, but up to you. Do you really think they'll make Verse the default coding language in UE6? Nope, not at all. Also, Ryan, I have a one-to-one with you. Thank you. On the 26th, is it okay to send you my project with an explanation and some questions beforehand so that you're aware beforehand? By all means, send me the questions, but if you're sending me the project, really, if it's quite a large project, it's probably not a great idea, because it means I have to basically download it, open it, compile it. It means I can't do nothing else whilst I'm waiting for that to happen, which can be a bit problematic. So if it's a small project, sure. Otherwise, yeah, just notes will be fine as well. A-Man7, I'm getting this message after disabling Nanite. How to fix it? Nanite is disabled, but fallback messages were stripped during cooking for this platform due to product settings. Messages might not render correctly. Yeah, so so fallback meshes, how do you get them back in? That's a project. Let me have a look in here. I mean, it's nothing you can really help. It's just is it a warning that comes up every single time? It feels a bit weird that it comes up every single time. Blue Universe channel, could I switch from one blueprint character to another completely blueprint character during runtime? I alternate back and forth. Yes, I've got videos on it. Check it out on the channel. I won't go through it now, but yeah, I've got a video on how to switch characters between characters. You just basically spawn it in and possess it. Ret meshes might not render correctly. Not entirely certain, Eamon. If you disable it, it might be one thing you could try. I don't know if it'll work. This is nanite, so it's not going to work too well in here. But you can generate LODs on the thing. That might stop the errors coming up. So rather than using nanite, you turn nanite off, and yeah, do that. So I'll turn that off there. Yeah. See, I'm like, yeah. But see, I'm not getting error messages though. Might have something to do specifically with the meshes that you've got. So yeah, this has got LODs. Check that it has LODs in it. It might not have LODs in it. Maybe that's why. Hard to tell. I'm not entirely certain. When you finish a game, how do you make it Steam/Epic ready? For one, they all have their own documentation on how to actually do this. But essentially, you have something called Steamworks, which is a program you have, which you connect and log in with your Steam ID, and you have to. Best thing to do is follow the instructions on their documentation. Annoyingly, their NDAs stop you from showing how to do this, which is not useful, but it is documented, so you can go through the documentation and do it. It can be a bit fiddly. It seems when I did it was a bit out of date, but it's not as hard as they make it is initially made out to be. But yeah, you just package the game. You basically essentially package the game, put it into a folder, put in a command in their app, in their shell app, and then away it goes. Steam costs about £100 or $100 to create a game page, but you get that back if your game makes a certain amount of money. Will there be VGS in Mimic? Something was implemented Paladins. What VGS? What's VGS? Am I being done? What's VGS? Paladins. Voice guided system. No. For one, I'll tell you that now. No. What the hell? So it's voice chat without the voice chat. It's insane. We're almost at the end of the stream, so if you have any last minute questions, short ones especially, put them in the chat and we'll try and answer them before we finish up here. Spark Labs Gaming. If I have a physical object as my main character, I want it to play an animation when it falls from a higher spot. How do I set that up based on the fall and not velocity speed? If I have a physical object as my main character, I want it to play an animation when it falls from a higher spot. Based on fall and not velocity speed. Oh, you want to know if they're falling down? Is that what we're talking about? Yeah, so you can do... where is it? So if you get velocity of a character, I'm going to put it on tick so you can see how this works. So if I get velocity of a character and print string that. Okay. This returns, especially if I get... Well, actually, I'll do this as it is. So as I walk around, you'll see the velocity change, and if I jump, the Z value goes from positive to negative. Yeah. So if you want to know if you're falling, you're looking at the Z value, and you're looking at the Z value going into negatives. If it's negative, it means you're falling, not rising. I think that's what you're talking about. So all you have to do is take a look at the Z velocity value on here. So you just, you know, you can break this, split it, whatever you want to do, and go less than 0. Obviously, this can be in the animation blueprint, all the same. There you go. So if is falling, we'll change to true when velocity is less than 0. Yeah. So tick's generally not a good idea. Just use event-based mechanics. Again, depends on what you're doing. Ticks happen every single frame. So if there's something you need to happen every single frame, use a tick. But majority of the game would be happening in an event-based gameplay. Tick is useful for various things that have to happen every single frame. Loads of stuff are ticking already in your game. There's no, like, tick is not dangerous to use. Lots of stuff is using it already. It's what you use it for that's dangerous. Okay? So, it all depends on what you're doing with it. Is the chicken game finished? No, not finished. On the back burner for a moment. It's a game I made for my children, really. On the back burner. Mechanically, it's finished. I just need to make levels, really, for it. But it's on the back burner for a moment whilst I get Mimic done. Yeah. Ryan, did you have any desire to work in the triple A games ever? At one point, I did. I interviewed for a few jobs when I was straight out of university. The biggest one was probably Rare. I interviewed for Rare as a designer. Looking back on it now, I wish I look back on how I approached that whole interview and things like that, and I'm like, I'm such an idiot. I was young, I was stupid. I was like, I could have made that so much better. I've since gone back to Rare and spoke to Rare people, so it's quite funny talking to them now. But yeah, at that time, yeah, but not really. I like making games, so I don't really care what placement I'm in. But yeah, no, I stopped chasing big AAA studio stuff for a long while. I talked to people in that space, you know, and because they watch the videos and take and show their appreciation. So yeah. Can you disable receive shadows on a specific mesh? I don't think you do receive shadows. I'll double check that. Car shadows, yeah, but receiving shadows, no. But what you can do is you can make use of the light channels over here. So, for example, what's a good one to do it on? Let's do it on this one. This is using channel 0, as is all light at the moment, because that's default. But if I turn that off and turn it on 1, it should ignore it. Oh yeah, there you go. It's ignored it. There you go. It's not lit at all. Because I've got no other lighting in here to boost it. So there's that. Otherwise, you're making the material lit. That's the other way of doing it. So if I were to take this material here, like this one, and if I edit this thing, God, come on, there you go, and just change this to unlit, and put that into emissive color. That'll stop that from doing it. Yeah, obviously you get the glow effect, but you can get around that a little bit too by taking this value here and multiplying it by a very low number. I don't think 0 would work. You have to do very low. Or 0.5 maybe might work. I don't know. But you're not going to get any of that ambient occlusion. So if you want ambient occlusion to go in there, you have to do some tricks with the with an ambient occlusion mesh to make it cast shadows on itself. Because essentially, if nothing's casting shadows on it, then this can be basically a light bulb. Essentially, is what it's doing. Yeah. Let me change that back before it gets a bit too broken. Okay. HJHW, would you consider doing some more in-person courses, Ryan? There's a real lack of game studios in Essex. That's where I live, everyone. I would love to create some game jobs, kind of playing with the idea. Yeah, I'm always doing in-person stuff as well. Yeah. Yes. So before we wrap up here, just to let you know, I am at Pocket Gamer London in 2 weeks' time. I'll be there. I'm also at the Unreal Engine meetup at Unreal Engine's offices next week as well. So by all means, do say hi. I'm walking around. It's cool to meet up with people and handle that. If you haven't seen it already, we have a discount code for the month of January. If you want to get private sessions, you can use that to get a discount. You can also, if you're a Patreon member, use the Patreon discount code. Patrons get a discount code every month. You can combine the two and get double off. So yeah, figure that out. So you can definitely play around with. If you want to get some private sessions, you can definitely hit me up on that. That's totally cool. And if you want to support the channel, head to patreon.com/Ryan Laley. We have been redesigning a lot of stuff behind the scenes. So the Discord's been rejigged and reshuffled around to give Patreon members, basically, if you like this question time, you can have this all week long in Discord. So yeah, join Patreon and you can get hold of the Discord channels. So do check it out. That'd be great. Yeah, I'm out. I've got a session next with someone, so thank you very much, everyone. We're back again live next week with the podcast on Tuesday with me and Bill, and also with our question time. Actually, I don't know about the podcast because I'll be in London. TBD on that one, but I'll be here for question time next Wednesday. Okay, cheers, everyone. Take a good night, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.